Okay, welcome to the second video, and actually we're going to be looking at the initial economic principles. And one of the things to get right at the beginning of this course is it's really important we actually start using the correct terminology and we actually understand why we're using it. And we're actually going to be returning to these principles a lot, and we'll underpin them through the class discussions backed up through the readings. And don't worry if you don't immediately understand all the principles today, as we'll examine them throughout the module. And this is one of the benefits of the video, but it does actually give you the opportunity to revisit them at your leisure. So let's think first of all about rational choices. What are rational choices? Well, there's limited resources, and because there's limited resources, it means you have to make choices. Now, money. What do we spend our money on? Well, you've only got so much to spend from your wages, from your student's loan, and you can't buy everything. So in economics, it's actually assumed that you'll make a rational choice, and this is actually correct for both individuals and businesses. So, is it food or clothes? Is it books or music? For a business, should we make shirts or trousers? Should we make iPads or iPad minis? We only have so much resources, only so much we can do. So it's very much assumed that we actually make a rational choice, that our decisions will reflect the best value for money. So rational choices are actually then straightforward. Well, quite often it's relatively straightforward for a business, because if you're a private organisation, the majority of these will actually want to maximise the profits. So yes, that is quite straightforward. If you're a public sector organisation, it's perhaps making the biggest difference of money, needing to use it as efficiently as possible in order to maximise profit or return. So it's making the best use of the money. And we'll actually be returning to profit maximisation in later weeks. If we think then of consumers, and it's actually less straightforward for consumers, as it's so much more than about profit maximisation. And products will differ if we spend our money on our basic needs or our luxury items, because we have different individual preferences on what we spend our money on. So what I might spend my money on is perhaps different to what you might spend your money on. So our patterns of consumption actually vary accordingly. But the assumption is that we're rational in how we make our choices. Beans. Yes, we talked about this in the session. So, if we're to make a choice between nicer beans or standard beans, we have to think about which ones we'll buy. How do you decide which one to buy? I go to Tesco's, or I go to Asda, or I go to John Lewis, and there's stacks of different tins of beans. Does the difference in taste justify the difference in price? So how do we decide what to buy? Now, some people will only buy Heinz beans because they feel strongly about the difference in taste between Heinz and cheap beans, and the value is not justified by taste. Therefore, to them, Heinz isn't as expensive, even though the cost is more than value beans. Because they say the taste is so great, they're willing to spend more on the product. But some people do not have enough money to make a choice. They're not able to afford nicer beans or more expensive products, and they're forced to buy the less expensive products. So in this sense, both sets of people are making a rational choice, and their preference is influenced by other factors. In this case, it's income levels. And we'll be talking about how income can have patterns of demand from consumers over subsequent weeks. Opportunity cost. This is an important economic principle, and it's something we've discussed on many previous occasions. And what it is, it's when you have to make a choice to allocate resources and you actually have to exclude alternatives. So you can't buy clothes if you spent it on food, and you can't make lawnmowers if you've allocated all your business money on a production line to make garden chairs. So you have a choice perhaps. Opportunity cost. Is it buying the textbook or buying jeans or CDs or a beer? So it means you can't. So if you buy those, then as a result you can't buy something else. There's a cost to other things that you might have spent your money on. So these choices we make about resource allocation, excluding the alternatives, are referred to as opportunity costs. So look at maximising the difference between choices made and the operational costs. You may need to find the next best alternative.